Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining the Behind Company Lines podcast. Today we have Pierre Brunel, CEO and co-founder of Notable, the collaborative data notebook that enables data-driven teams to use and visualize data together. Pierre, I'm so excited to chat with you today, not only because of your mind from a product lens and your background experience we haven't chatted about yet, but I think from a product standpoint, it can be so interesting to chat with you and how you think about building and connecting with your audience as well. But before we get into all that and all that with Notable, I know you spent your career launching different and new products with companies. What's been a favorite product of yours to be a part of, outside of Notable, of course?
Out with the ball all day, as you can imagine. Yes, thanks for having me, James, today. I'm very excited also to spend this moment with you. I think one of the most excited product spend time launching was maybe my first product when I joined Amazon in Luxembourg, mostly because I got to learn about so many new things doing it. And I think that's what most of us are doing this job, being a product manager. Even I'm a CEO now, everyone said that the product manager is kind of a mini CEO of a product. I think that a lot of product managers are also aspiring or automatically will be leading toward a career of leading a business more than just a product. And I think it's very exciting. And I really enjoy working on that product, which was mostly internally working on the search at Amazon on the website to make sure that we surface the right product to the right people. And I got to dig into the data a lot because I'm a very data-driven person. And work with so many different teams across India and the US. I was based in the EU, and really make a global change in the business case to interact with so many people. I was using machine learning to power the search and do some improvements for a segment of the customer. And that was really just a great way to jump in and within the Amazon ecosystem, which is very big and complex to understand, but as well work with so many different people across the globe and with different kind of skill set.
And for those who don't know in the audience, what is it like, or I guess, what do big companies do well that you've taken and used that Notable that makes you a little bit more mature? We would think about like the why they're so successful based on the system that they have in place, companies like Amazon as well. But what in particular did you see during your experience that, they did well that you've maybe tried to emulate with Notable?
I mean, I was not there when it started 27 years ago. So I think that you can ask Jeff Bezos for that. But I think for my experience from talking to the people always talk about what's bad at big companies and the political environment and the latency to make decisions. I think actually it's fighting that by enabling a high level of communication and collaboration, enabling also people to understand when and where you can make kind of fast decision. And I think Amazon has a nice way to put it, which I reuse in the company as well, to sometimes sit with my team and discuss that, just throw that out there, which is the concept of one-way door versus two-way door decisions, which I really like because I have a master of research in decision sciences. So I really like talking about decision making all day. And I think it's just understanding, okay, what are the dependencies, what's the severity, what's the criticality, what's the uncertainty behind that decision I'm trying to make? Who is it going to influence? What's the potential impact? And based on that, decide if it's a decision that you can just make and learn from it, or if it's a decision that you really have to sit down and think twice about it before actually making a move. And just having that in mind helps a lot, navigating that maybe latency or inertia that's being created as being part of a big company, where you're at a startup, it's like 3 people, 5 people, 10 people, 15 people. Everyone just makes 15 decisions all days, and they don't look behind. They don't look behind.
And what would you say, being that you have such an in-depth experience with your decision making, where do founders, in your opinion, maybe make mistakes or maybe not consider certain pieces of information during the decision-making process that could be improved or could lead to more quick or effective decisions?
I mean, when you talk with a lot of founders, successful CEOs, when you read a lot of books about it, everyone talks mostly about the same thing. The same 2 things. The first one is you have to listen a lot. You cannot get everything done yourself. That's why you get money. That's why you build a team. And you have the vision, and your goal is to convey the vision, set up the values because you want to get somewhere, but you're not the one who is going to bring you there. It's the team that you hire. You're going to be a big part of it because you carry it as well, and you set the direction, and you help with the pivot and the changes and the hiring. But at the end of the day, you set the culture, you set the vision, you set the values, you set the simple rules that you want everyone to follow to say, because that's the rules that I believe will be successful for us as a team, as a business, but then the other people getting there. So I think listening a lot to the feedback is very important about what works for the team that you're hiring, because I might believe that what works for me when I was working at Amazon or another company, or what works for me as an individual might not work for the 15 people I hired. And if I hired differently than what I expected I hired, the smart thing to do is being pragmatic about looking at your team. They are the one also building the vision and the value of the company as you grow. Like one hire when you are 10 people is so important that I feel like you have to adapt those values and those set of rules that you want to set based on who they are, because you cannot force people to change. But I think the most important thing is just listen and learn from the people that you are hiring to build what you are here for. And I think the second one is just being careful with the classic bias of being the founder and believing that you just want to build this fun stuff that you have in mind. And going back to more be a product person and actually ask questions and interview customers or potential customers or leads, and try to define the real pain points you are trying to tackle to actually find product market fit, instead of just building the cool stuff that you have in mind.
Yeah. And when you're tackling a problem, how do you extract the components that are important to solve?
What do you mean by problem? At which level?
Yeah. So when there's wherever you're serving your customer, whether it's a problem, whether it's a solution, whether it's increasing their capability in a certain function, how do you extract from a product standpoint what to build and what to focus on? And when you're going through, say, the testing part of it, how quickly are you making adjustments based on the results that you're getting?
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic question around testing, because I had that debate a lot around something to know into software development and product management or product development in itself is fast release cycle is better because you remove the uncertainty and the risk of making mistakes. So actually, if you can find a cadence when you can ship as fast as you can, small portion of what you are trying to achieve, it's the best way to get feedback, and it's the best way for the code base to evolve in a way that's building blocks instead of just one monolithic piece. So it's better for software development and it's better for product management to, when you think about tackling a problem and building something, a functionality or feature around it, to phase as much as you can, the releases to help software development, and phase as much as you can the functionality with those releases so you can help with product management. Of course, then you have to be careful, and there's a classic, MVP of an MVP is not just what's functional, it's what's actually usable and enjoyable. So you have to be careful about that, of like each of those phases by being a good enough UX, a good enough return investment for people to actually use it, so they don't just get value and the nice usable experience after phase 4 of your product or your feature. So I think I would say that the most important thing when I think about tackling a problem or solving a pain point with a functionality and expanding a feature set is phasing as much as you can, while still maintaining that MVP of what's functional, usable, enjoyable at the same time.
Yeah. What was the inspiration that you're working for Amazon, you're using data to make decisions or make product decisions, but also understand your customer a little bit more, I'm sure. What was the inspiration behind Notable, and what was the final catalyst for you taking the leap and really focusing on this product as a founder?
Yeah, very typical story that people used to call entrepreneur before. I don't know if my accent that went through entrepreneur, which is a very difficult one. But I think we built similar things at Amazon, and my co-founder built similar things at Netflix and Apple and other companies. And I got to learn about my future customers by just doing my job every day.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of companies I know, I'm not going to share names here, but in the ML or AI space, in top of my head, I can mention 15 founders of now Series A to Series D, who have all been doing the same thing at their big tech companies or small, medium tech companies, and now just went out there and say, I learned that for 4 years doing that job. I realized there's a gap in the market because that big company had the chance to be able to build it internally. Let's just generalize it as much as we can and try to serve the people out there outside of the environment I was in. And that's a very common story, really in tech at least, but I'm sure you can also relate to. So that's mostly kind of the way it took place.
Yeah. And what in particular does the technology do? Give us an idea from the audience standpoint. What does the technology do and how does it help the companies and customers that you're working with?
Oh yeah, so Notable mostly rely on Jupyter Notebook Project, which is an open source solution to enable people to just have a reactive environment, like a REPL environment to write code, generate output, and store data. So it comes mostly from inspiration by Mathematica, which is an older solution when you could actually do that. And if you have been at engineering school, you actually have used Mathematica or Maple or MATLAB in the past, which has very similar solution. But it came out from Berkeley and it has been out there for now more than decades. And yeah, there have been attempts from big companies to fork the open source project and maintain a solution internally. And now smaller and medium companies are doing that as well. But as maintaining an open source solution takes a lot of knowledge and skill sets.
Yeah.
So you build a team around it. And when you are a medium or big company, yeah, you can maybe afford spending $4 or $5 million on a, 20 people team with overheads per year to maintain that solution. When you are a small company and it's not your core business, you cannot do that. So you have to go after a vendor to be able to support and provide the same technology to your data teams. So it's a great way to think about bridging the gap between data science and data analytics. The thing that most BI tool or data intelligence tools have been lagging behind on because they rely on like old tech stack.
Yeah.
When you think about Tableau, Domo, Power BI, they are very powerful tools, but they have been built and using technology that were out there for like 10 years now.
Yeah.
And I think there is that new wave of technology that can do more and provide more access to data and compute that enables to do more things using Python, SQL, or other programming languages.
Yeah. And you describe the transition a little bit more, if you will, or I guess any advice you'd give a founder who is working in a company, sees a problem and they see it time and time again and are thinking about building a solution. What is helpful to consider when you finally take that leap, when you leave your position, you go into this full time? Is it the people you connect with? Is it the accessibility to the technology? What advice would you give other founders going through this transition, either currently or looking to?
I would say the people is number one for sure. That's always been number one for me. I had the opportunity to leave the job I was in the past many times and start a company. And I never really did it at the scale that I did it with Notable 2 years ago because I didn't find the people that I wanted to start the adventure with.
Yeah.
Because you spend a lot of time together.
Yeah.
There's a lot to figure out and there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of, a friend who is also a founder put it best a couple of years ago. It told me it's just a roller coaster. He told me it's a lot of low lows and high highs. And I think it's the best way to put it. So having the right people that create the support system that you can rely on to be constructive all the time and try to move forward step by step, I think it's number one. So you can go by yourself. Yeah, you can try to create a company and a business by yourself. And even if you can do tech product now, because there's a lot of no-code solution that you can leverage. If you're a non-technical founder, you can. But I think I've seen also a lot of technical founders lacking a business founder.
Yeah.
And they struggle to either raise money, have a good go-to-market that on paper makes sense, because your go-to-market on paper is never going to be the same year after, but you need to have at least someone who has expertise with the one-on-one of the business strategies, because you don't have time to waste and you cannot just spend the first 6 months after raising money figuring out what your plan is. Just make a plan and execute on it and every day learn from it.
Yeah.
But you cannot just sit around doing nothing, figuring out what the plan is, because the money and time has a cost, and the more money you grab, the more expectation there is from the people. Not just from the VCs, from the entire market. I see some companies raising like seed and Series A combined like 50, 80 million. And I'm like, wow, I wonder what expectations can be of this. For them to be able to not do just a down round. And I think that's the biggest things to consider. The people, and then also what's your strategy? You don't always have to raise money. Or like, I don't know, raising money is fantastic. You get the PR coverage. There's a lot of bootstrap business that are successful, and sometimes it's the best way to do it. So it just about depends. I will not advise everyone to raise as much money as they can. It really depends on the business that they want to start and thinking about that. Because there is a trade-off like, hey, if someone offers you X amount of money, should I take it or should I take half of it? Like, do I need that X amount? I don't have the answer. I think some people would advise you take as much money as you can.
Yeah.
And because you can build as much as you can. Some people advise maybe it's not the best idea.
Yeah.
Retool is a good example. I think if you read about it, you can just Google it and talk about Retool founding round. And I think that I don't know him, but I read the article about the co-founder and the CEO raising less money that they could have, and that's what they wanted. And they say it was good for the employees, being good for keeping control as well, and just pacing the way forward. So, yeah.
Yeah, what founder mentioned to me in regards to the funding process is that kind of in line with Expect is that a lot of times companies raise without really knowing what they want to invest the amount of capital into. And oftentimes they get this lump sum and then are figuring out ways to make up and spend that money versus having it designated in that way. What are ways that, you, or I guess, what have you learned from your fundraising process that I guess you wish you knew earlier on in the whole cycle of fundraising and then expectation setting?
Yeah, I think that's the difference when also you see, when you do a seed round or Series A round, or let's talk about seed round or pre-seed. Let's not talk about the amount because the amount really depends on the vertical UI, the industry UI. If you look at the seed round, Series A round of like fintech and healthcare and biotech, is just insane. You're like,
yeah,
wow. Series A of like 550 million. Like what? And you are raising, I don't know, maybe you're raising 10 million and you're like, wow, it's big. And you have to, so there's Carta, that's advertising Carta here that we use. They have a nice dashboard on their website called, I think, the Data Desk. So Carta Data Desk, and they basically publicly share the data of their company that are working with them. And you can see the round and the median and the average per industry. And I think it's a great source of reference that's pretty up to date to look at and see what you could potentially raise depending on the industry you are involving in. But I think what you can potentially raise also is gonna, to answer your question, really depends on, do you find product market fit or not? Or do you believe that you find product market fit?
Yeah.
And that's why the story like us, where we have been doing the same kind of product and serving the same type of customers in a different environment, more isolated, but for a couple of years before we go out, and we have a team who is getting together, will know that market. We kind of normally expect that, or the VCs expect that you will move faster because you will not spend that first 6 to 9 months figuring out what you want to build.
Right.
You already figure out. So you come on the table saying, this is my 3-year vision, 5 years, 10 years, depending what's your take on that. This is my vision. This is how I get there. I already did it in some fashion. Let me just redo it again with those people and with a tiny bit of like new learnings. And people are excited about that because oh yeah, they have a story. They can show me some qualitative or quantitative data that it has been successful. They're just going to do it again. And so that works very well. But I think the most important slide when you raise money, seed round or Series A round, is the people slide. It's your team.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing. You can spend like 6 months trying to figure out the total addressable market. Like seriously, everyone's going to put on a slide saying 3 billion in total addressable market. Who cares about that?
Yes.
You can put that slide if you want. What matters is where do you want to go, how you want to get there, and where we'll go with who. I think that's what's the most.
Yeah, that's something that hasn't necessarily been talked about, which is the people as a way to communicate the value of the company and what you're building to when you're going through those conversations. Typically, founders have talked about finding the total addressable market. I think another founder was talking about being very clear on your metrics and whatever targets and milestones that you're hitting. And also fundamentally from a business standpoint, the foundation of, say, accounting and keeping operations really clear and transparent. But a lot of times what is not talked about is the influence or impact of your actual team that has helped close rounds of funding and communicate the value. How do you select the partners that you're with, and how do you know who is the right partner when you're going to build a company together? Is it that they understand the value, the vision as well, or do they understand the product? Are they technical? How do you go through that process identifying the partners you want to work with?
Yeah. So I've actually been having a lot of conversation with friends or former founders or from people who are reaching out to me saying that they want to have a discussion about it. And I'm never saying I'm giving them advice. I'm just having a discussion.
Yeah.
And then they decide to take it or not. So that's my take. It's like a one-time thing.
Yeah.
My 2 cents. But I think what I usually share is first you have to look for complementary skill set and personality. So you don't I don't want 3 Pierre running football. I want 1 Pierre and 3 other persons who have a different opinion than and bring something different to the table, because 4 of me will be really useless. I'm good at certain things only. And I think for me, I was looking for, I have some technical understanding of things. I can have a very deep kind of knowledge experience, but I can speak about everything for 5 minutes and then you're going to lose me.
Yeah.
But I think on the technical side, I was really looking for someone who is an expert and can make the right decisions. Like I hope on the product side, I'm able to make the trade-off and understanding the impact on that decision. I think that's what matters the most is find your counterparts.
Yeah.
That can help you make the decision for the business when you look at them, which is hiring, people, values, business, go-to-market, finance, raising money, all that jazz, and tech, at least in our space. And so when I look at that, I was like, okay, who is going to be the one that we're going to listen the most to? So we have a set of co-founders, and it's great to not just be one and be also an odd number, because when there's a conflict and there's an argument, if you are an odd number, actually you just rely on like, okay, 2 versus 1. Big decisions. Someone tries to convince the other 2 and then someone changes their mind. Someone comes with a strong opinion about it. And then we challenge ourselves all the time, very respectfully, but we have like some heated conversations sometimes, and it always leads after 30 minutes to a decision. Yeah. I think that's what's the most important. So find your counterparts who have different skill sets. And I think that's valuable for every team as well. As diversity in a team is proven when you look at the data from the research as to just increase productivity and innovation. So it's the same at the founder level. Just build diversity within your founding team. That's just the way it is. Yeah, that will lead to better productivity. So I think that was kind of the answer to your questions. And did you ask me about something else? I think you asked about how you select your co-founders. But...
No, you kind of went through that process and just evaluating the individuals. You don't want someone within the same personality, but someone who is a counterpart or even just complements the skill set that you have and brings other things to the table, which is a huge thing that people I think don't consider as well. They consider the getting along part, cohabitation almost of being very much similar in personality, but really those who are successful who've been on the podcast talk about the counterbalance of their co-founder being so critical to the direction of the company.
No, I think, you said getting along. I think getting along, yes. But for me personally, it's mostly respect.
Yeah.
You need to respect the co-founder you're going to work with, because they're going to know better than you on many things. And you need to be able to respect them and trust them that, okay, on this subject, on this topic, on this area, they are leading. Despite being the CEO, despite someone being a CPO, despite someone being the CTO, you have HR discussion all the time. You have people discussion all the time. You have finance discussion all the time. You talk about topics that are not in any of our core responsibilities. And when you get title, and sometimes we feel like the voice of authority is going to be me. Sometimes it's going to be my co-founder. And we just have to be able to respect each other, that in that area that no one knows better about, we're going to trust that person. So I think respect is the most important as well.
Yeah. Shifting to Notable, tell us a little bit about the traction. How many companies have adopted your platform? How many customers do you have? What's the level of growth that you've seen in the last year? And what are you excited about in terms of this next year's kind of push for either new products or growth or anything that's exciting?
Yeah, so we have been mostly serving big enterprises so far. So we started a bit different from, it's a great topic we could address in a couple of minutes. Would spend like 2 hours is like the bottom up versus top down and the kind of topic. So we really focus on the top down aspect first, because the technology we built has been mostly developed and, let's say, known by big tech companies or companies that are really advanced in their tech stack. Companies that are using Python, that are using Airflow, that are doing machine learning, that are doing data analytics in a very advanced way, not just having a data warehouse and a BI tool. It's people who are doing a lot of ETL and EDAs. And so naturally, when we were out there, the biggest companies on the planet across all verticals reach out and say, hey, we are doing something similar. Yeah. We are looking at using that technology internally. And so that means that we have been taking a bit counterintuitive approach, which was very top down and focusing a lot on the DevOps and infrastructure aspect, which when you look at startup, usually they will start with multi-tenant, a PLG approach and a bottom-up approach for network effects. But I believe, and actually I realized after talking to a lot of founders and even VCs who changed their mind about it, that building a data tool is, if it's not an open source solution that you manage your open source yourself and doing community led, it's very difficult to do bottom up because it's not like Slack or Dropbox.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot just believe that you're going to create a moment and individual contributors within medium or large companies will be able to just sign up for your tool because there is data that's involved.
Yeah.
So there's a big proxy and a security concern that individual at large companies will not just sign up for your tools, use it, and then go to their teams and say, I've been using that for a month for production use case with the data of our customers, not respecting data privacy, not respecting GDPR. And so that's what usually it's a big blocker. And that's why we really had a different approach by focusing on top-down and large enterprises at first. Now we have an open product so people can just try it for free. It's unlimited completely in terms of compute and hardware. Just the option will kind of vary, but anyone can just sign up at app.notable.io and use it and write Python and SQL and build visualization on their data. And they usually reach out to us very fast to talk about dedicated deployments.
Yeah.
Be able to support their kind of security requirements and privacy requirements.
Yeah. What's some of the biggest challenges that Notable faces today?
I think the biggest challenges is kind of maybe being too early, I will say, in the technology space. Being too early is like being too late, people say in the stock market. It's you don't want to be too early or too late. I think what's important right now is democratizing what notebooks are. What is that technology? Why is it being used by most of the big tech companies out there for 5-10 years? Why this project is one of the most popular open source projects for wrangling and working with data. Why is it the most used tool by data scientists for the past 5 to 6 years? Like mostly 80% of people use this tool now when they do data science, among other things. And that tool now is expanding because a lot of companies or people are contributing to it, and it can do more than just serving Python users to data science, and it serves data analytics, and it serves data engineers with helping with ETL workflows. And so I think it's just democratizing that, because when you I go to Forrester event, I go to Gartner conferences, which is where all the CIOs of all the CTOs and CDOs of the big companies, big older companies are going. This is just not being spoken about because it's still at the level of the data practitioners or the lead of the team. And I think it still has to kind of propagate either to those higher level or as well to you starting a business tomorrow and thinking you want to analyze data.
Yeah.
There is more than BI tools now. And if you use a notebook-based technology like Notable, you will be able to, make a dashboard and report like you used to. But then as your company grows and start doing more data-driven decision or data-driven based process, you will be able to use the same tool to build machine learning workflows, build ETL workflows. So I think that's kind of the biggest challenge now. It's going to be democratizing the technology and kind of the technology awareness.
Yeah. Yeah. And if everything goes well, what's the long-term vision for Notable?
Yeah, so we have been trying to and focusing on bridging the gap between data analytics and data science by bringing no-code visualization. No-code is a big space right now.
Huge
space,
no-code
visualization to our coding platform, which is very unique to us. Most tools out there who started with no-code for the past decade and then bring code when it makes sense. It's very opinionated because the no-code builds some code that then technical people cannot really interact with. We did the opposite approach, which is we are a very flexible coding platform. And where and when it makes sense, we brought either no-code visualization or no-code data wrangling to bring the least technical users. Our goal is to say that from my experience, collaboration is what's the most important to deliver added value and innovation, and collaboration within data teams where there is 4 to 5 different customer personas, they don't have a tool to them. Yeah. Like there is no tool for collaborative data analytics, science, or engineering. And so it's really providing a data workspace through our data notebook for people to collaborate and make sense of data. That's the long vision of what we are building.
I love that. And I have a few rapid fire questions that I'm going to shoot at you. So first question is, what would, if knowing what you know now and transitioning from CPO to CEO, what was the biggest challenge for you in that transition, going from a product mindset to thinking about the company in its entirety as the product?
Letting go. No, I people make the decision for me. When I move from CPO to CEO, it's co-founder, CPO, CEO is very difficult. I was also in the first 6 months, I was designing myself. So I was doing a bit of marketing. Co-founder, you do a bit of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was super lucky to hire a great product person that I fully trust that is making the right decision for the roadmap. Also, I have a fantastic VP of engineering and designer. So just as you grow the company, we are just 27 people. I think it's big enough to create a structure of information flow and as well of decision making that you can trust the people. Specifically, you asked me about the product and the CPO role. Trust the people that they will make the right decision together. So I trust fully my VP of engineering and my director of product together to make the right decisions. And that's how I was able to kind of scale out of the role to be able to do more. For example, do podcasts with you today.
Yeah. What in the ebbs and flow, the ups and downs of building a startup, what is one thing that you do to get away from work and kind of recharge yourself that has been helpful during this building process?
Sports, playing tennis.
Yeah.
When it's not raining and it's playing tennis has been great. I've been playing tennis with other kids. So I went back to it like last year, started again. And I think after COVID, when everyone was doing nothing, staying at home, I'm sure having health issues, I had back issues. It solved my back issues plus kind of releasing stress, being able to like for an hour completely think about something else.
Yeah.
So that's, mostly sports, I'm sure, like most people.
Yeah. What's particularly hard about your job?
On a good day, on a bad day. I think it's wearing so many hats at the same time.
Yeah.
And in the same vein, when to know, I reference listening. I think it's when to know when to listen and when to be more direct and straightforward. So it's just some things an everyday battle of deciding when are you going to use your co-founder, CEO, CPO, whatever power to say, this is what's happening. Yeah. And we are moving on. And you are kind of eroding trust from your people when you do that. You cannot do that. Just, I know people are going to listen to that podcast, but you cannot do that too much because you have to trust the people you are working with.
Yeah.
I think it's fine and it's normal because you are here for that sometimes to say, this is what's happening and just move on. And as much as you can, try to explain the decision, even if, it's a decision you are imposing on people and people are like, I don't understand it. I say, at least try to explain it versus letting them come to their own conclusion and decision by themselves that you can go along with, be okay with it. That doesn't matter. But there is a cost in terms of time. So going back to everything I said during this podcast, I think the one-way door and the two-way door decisions and the listening versus installing values is just finding that middle way.
Yeah. Whether it's early in your career or now, what books or people have influenced you the most?
In terms of people, I'll be like something I share with a lot of friends and people who know me. It's my godfather.
Yeah.
Was a very successful person, and he's American actually, living in the Bay Area, just because by his personality and his personal values and just have been around, just a great source of inspiration on how to be and how to behave and what to do. So as a person, that would be that. In terms of books, I read a lot of research papers. Yeah, I don't read a lot. I read some books, but I mostly read research papers.
Yeah.
And I read research papers about time during my Master of Research. Mm-hmm. So if you go look my scholar profile on Google, you will see that I wrote about time actually.
Wow. Okay.
A lot. Which I was really inspired by reading about time in organization. It's something that I could speak for hours as well. And if I didn't go work for Amazon, I would have gone for doing a PhD about time in organization and management studies. But no one would have want to read that. So I was like, there's a bigger market for me to work for Amazon and then try to serve customers and writing about time that maybe 10 people on the planet cares about. I think research papers about time really changed my way of thinking about decision-making and being self-aware and self-reflect and people, my godfather.
Yeah. I love that. I know we're at the end of the episode here, so I'd love to give you a chance to give us your plugs, your website, your LinkedIn's, your Twitters. Where can we find you? Where can we be a part of Notable and even dive into the platform and start playing around with it?
Yeah, like I said, notable.io or notable.com. We have so many domains. I don't remember all of them. But you can go there, sign up. It's free at app.notable.io. Like I said, sign up from the website. And we'd love to get feedback. So if you use data, either as an individual, as a researcher, as a student, or as part of a team within a small or big company, we'd love for you to try out and reach out.
Amazing. Pierre, it's been such a pleasure to have you on the show and kind of extracting your knowledge from a product standpoint, but also as a founder and the way that you've built a successful team and what to consider during that process. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed yourself and thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me today.
Of course.